Hello and welcome everybody to You've Got It. Today, I want to talk about values and principles for navigating the unknown. We live in times with what everything is happening all around the globe that we feel that there's no ever any security in our lives and the lives that we have created. And so I was thinking I want to share a little bit about the situation I find myself in, the situation a lot of people find themselves in, and the questions that we have that come up and how we deal with that. So, for example, the pressure to have it all figured out at this age, right? Being 50 plus, being a parent, having been a boss and build a company, but also being a caregiver to your elderly parents. And now, what next? There's so many questions still, even though we have accomplished so many things in our lives and being very sure about the choices we had taken once for our children when they were small, and now they are young adults themselves and don't need us in that sense as a mother or father anymore. But obviously they're still in our lives and are still having decisions to take, and maybe us as a parents, we are just asked differently how to support them, right? And in the same way that that relationship moves as being like a parent of a young child is something else than being a parent of a young adult. In the same way that that relation shifts, it also shifts what we were as a daughter to our parents, and now they are older and we are not a young adult anymore. We are past 50 ourselves, and what is this that we can do for them now? Obviously, being their child and taking sometimes care of an elderly parent is something completely else than just being their daughter and living a life separately. So all of these decisions that we have to take now for an elderly parent, for example, is changing and shifting the quality of the relationship that we have with them. It's kind of moving from child to parent in the relationship with your parent. All of a sudden, they might now be more a child and you take care of them. So that shifts not just the relationship you have with them and also the relationship that you have with your children, but there's a big shift going on within. And so I was growing up and always thinking, well, once you are 30, you should all have figured it out. That was my thinking when I was a teenager. And then when I hit 30, I realized I was still in the middle of this whole figuring out my life. But when I'll be 40, everything will be clear for me. And then I would have my career and my children, my family that I would have created, and all is then fine and settled and safe. And then I hit 40 and I realized, that's actually when the real problems show up. And it's not anymore these little things that you can just deal with and solve within a day, a week, or a month. And then I was thinking, okay, so once you are 50, everything is going to be fine. Now I have hit 50 and I'm above that. And I'm not even thinking now that once I'm 60 or 70, I should have figured it all out. I am more thinking now that this is part of life. It's becoming. It's actually never really arriving, how should I say, at a place where you as yourself are completely ready and done with all the growing, and there's no further development to be explored or lived, because that would actually mean to be dead. I think now really that as long as we live, we evolve. As long as we live, we face challenges and we deal with them probably differently at 50 plus than we dealt with them when we were 25. But there's still a lot of insecurity and just unknown still happening in our lives. And you can, of course, plan and prepare your retirement. and figured out like, okay, by now I have enough funds and assets to live my life in a way I always planned and wanted to. But I think what not just the pandemic, but maybe even the global politics of our planet have shown us that there is never a full security of all what you have amassed as assets in your life will be able to give you that security. So it's more about like, how do we juggle all of this as we grow older? And so for me personally, I've been growing up already between two continents with two different cultures and languages being spoken at home. And I lived in different countries, and stepping obviously very often in my life into unknown and new spaces has prepared me a little bit better to continuously exploring new spaces and the unknown in a way that it doesn't freak me out that much anymore. And it is something good to know. And that gives me a certain security of if, again, unknown and new spaces come up, that I just know now and have a certain calmness inside that I do not have to worry about these situations anymore. And I just don't have to turn away or run away from it or come into flight, fright, freeze behavior, because I just know this is part of life and this is what makes me be alive. And so this is actually a beautiful thing to embrace and not to be afraid of. And the question, like, where do I want to live when I am 60, 70, or 80? Where do I want to retire is also not something that I have to answer at this point in my life. I have just discovered that I can already plan for it, but I leave options. I leave some options open. So I'm not just having a 5-year plan of where am I going to live in 5 years and how is this going to be, but I'm more preparing to options and possibilities that I want to have. Because again, if you lived and grew up in a multicultural household and then have pursued, like me, a multicultural and continental career, I have not just family all over 3 different continents. I also have very close friends of mine who live not in the same city, not in the same country as I do. And over the years, we have learned how to build and maintain these friendships, even though we live apart. And that impacts also how am I going to want to live, maybe once I retire or cannot move around anymore and live 2 months here and 2 months there, because maybe my bones will not allow me to do that anymore. So it's about, again, creating options of what is possible. And for me, what is the most important is obviously growing old. I want to be able to still be close to the ones that are really important to me. In my case, that's my closest friends and my son, my family, my loved ones. And they do not all live at the same spot. So I know already, like, being at the same geographical place will not be possible probably at one point. But it is more about staying connected with them. And for that, I don't necessarily need the geographical proximity, because I have experienced that over the years, that I can be bonded and connected closely and in their lives, even though we are not living in the same cities or on the same continents. It's just about staying connected from heart to heart and sharing what's going on in our lives. Obviously, is more beautiful if we live things together, but to be honest, like, sharing and being connected from heart to heart does not necessarily mean that we have to be in the same place. So that is, for me, very important to know, and that prepares me again for all the unknown that is happening, maybe for me in my life, that as long as I am connected within with myself and with the ones I really value in my life, I will always be with them. And there's no again, no fear to be afraid of what's happening when, what's happening when and what's happening when. We don't know so many things in our lives, and it's more like getting comfortable with the unknown. So when it comes to where will I live? Yes, I would like to live somewhere where my son is living and maybe is having created his family. But again, if this is not happening, as long as we are connected and keep bonding, that is all that counts for me. But how do we come to that place, right? How do we nourish relationships if we don't live at the same country, city, or area even? So for me, the most important thing is to understand how well we are connected with ourselves allows us to be connected with the others. And for me, that has a lot to do with being in tune with my own energies, which means knowing where my physical energy body is at. So do I physically feel strong and healthy, and do I really take care of that? And then also my emotional health. Am I aware of my feelings and emotions and know how to live them and not suppress them and express them in a way that also other people will be able to know me better, and I will be able to set boundaries in case that there are hurt feelings or uncomfortable emotions, so that I can involve the ones that I'm close with into how to deal with that, instead of pushing everybody away and crazy living out of my emotions, or not living out my emotions and have them stuck in me. So this is one very important part for me. But then there's obviously also like the mental health, mental energies. That's all my thoughts and my subconscious. And I do the most I can in my actually daily spiritual or energy or soul care hygiene to take care of my physical body, of my emotional body, and of my mental body, in the sense of being aware of what's going on right now physically in me, what's going on right now emotionally within, and what's going on right now here, what thoughts are predominantly running through my head, and I can change them if they are maybe draining or low vibrational, in the sense of keeping me stuck in limiting beliefs and in a core set that does not allow for growth. If I become aware of these kinds of thoughts, I can change them. And that's part of my daily soul care and energy routine that I'm doing. And then there's obviously also the spiritual realm. It's like beyond being a physical being, an emotional being, and a mental being. There is something bigger than that. That is the life purpose, what connects me with my higher self, with why am I here? And so that's also for me super important to check in with that, to check in with my dreams, to check in with what I could be and can be, and anything that is out there, further out there. And that can be a belief, that can be any thoughts that are going beyond my own possibilities, that are more like things that go beyond things that I can accomplish on my own. So I definitely call that a life purpose, because that connects me to all of you, all of nature, all of my environment, and allows me to be in touch with something bigger than I am. And so if I've taken care of all of these, this, as I said, like purpose connection, the thought, mind, mental connection, and my emotional and my physical health and connection with self, that's when I can connect from this aligned place with everybody else in a way that allows for growth, that allows for deep connection, beyond even distances, obviously. Just yesterday, I was in contact with a very good friend of mine that I call my sister. She lives in Africa. I live in the Dominican Republic. We haven't seen each other for 2 years now. And boy, I can tell you how well connected and bonded we are. And we just check in every now and then by Zoom calls, or maybe just sending an email or a little message. And we know where we are at with our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being, because we exchange about that and we keep each other on track about where we are at. And so that is something, obviously, that creates lots of belonging to each other and bonding and closeness and connection. So that is something that I have experienced. And sometimes you cannot keep that up with everybody. So this is also an experience that you do when you live your life between different countries, cultures, and continents, that not everybody is able to do that, to keep this contact as close and as connected. And that is also something that I have learned. You might lose some friends, and some people are just meant to be in my life for a short time or for a specific time. And that's okay too. Not everybody is meant to be in my life from the moment I get to know them until one of us dies. That is something that is also for me very healing, because it allowed me to let friends go at a certain time when it was just not matching for each other anymore, when we were maybe not energized by each other anymore, or where things were just not allowing us to stay connected in a way that we would both get energies out of that kind of relationship. And so it's okay to just very thankfully and lovingly go apart without any bad feelings. It's just like, that's it. And maybe sometimes that can be reignited. I had that too. I have a very good friend that I hadn't been in contact at all. We're not connected at all, not feeling any closeness for 5 years of our lives. And then she came back into my life. There were no bad feelings about this, or like saying like, wow, you have never been there for me. It was just allowing somebody to maybe split apart and then coming back. And that's probably the biggest learning for me in life, that allows me also to again navigate the unknown, navigate what life has to offer is in the surprise, and it's not in the knowing everything that's going to happen, and not wanting necessarily to be prepared to 100%. Just my attitude is more like being prepared the best way I can and taking care of myself so that I stay open to whatever new experience this life is bringing me. But also that I stay healthy and resilient in myself, but not closed and blocking anything away. So I wanted to share these thoughts today with you. I hope it helps you to navigate your life where you are at right now, and specifically navigating changes by just allowing yourself to first acknowledge what's going on within, really check in with your physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental bodies, just to check in where you are at. And if there is a discomfort, allow that to be for a moment, and then see, what do you want to change, or what do you want to have different? And if you feel fears coming up, or anxiety or discomfort, allow that too, because it is so important that you allow your body to express itself to you. And then from there, just if you cannot go through it to your own, reach out for somebody. I'm here for you to help you as well, if ever needed, to do a change that you are procrastinating about, and be guided through it so that you come out at the other side of it in an enriched and joyful way. I'm here for you.